are going to talk about how to best represent yourself and the Tepper community at corporate presentations and networking events. Corporate presentations are organized events held at the Tepper School by companies who recruit our students. During these events, companies present information about opportunities for our students, including information on both full-time and intern opportunities, and answer questions that students may have. Following these presentations, companies often hold networking sessions where students can informally engage with company representatives. Before we jump into the video, I wanted to note that the purpose of this video is to help you prepare for networking sessions that you may encounter at the school and to show some behaviors to both avoid and duplicate at networking events. Please note that none of the behaviors exhibited throughout this video are meant to depict a certain student or group of students. These are simply behaviors that professional recruiters have noted by MBA students at both Tepper and non-Tepper events that we would like to caution you about. We hope that you will be able to present your best professional self by watching this video.
So we're going to start with a corporate presentation at the point in which the students have begun to ask the representative questions. Leslie Cromer from the COC will play the role of a senior leader from Acme Corporation, a firm that's come to Tepper to recruit students for an internship. Throughout the video, Leslie and I will discuss the behaviors that the students exhibit and her reactions to them.
Thank you for your attention. As I hope we've communicated, Acme is pursuing exciting initiatives, and we're thrilled for the opportunity to speak with you about them. Are there any questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Randy Randerson, and I was an auditor for one of the Big Four firms, and I worked with a lot of impressive clients, some of the competitors of Acme actually. What I noticed was their financial statements had a lot of issues. So I went back through and fixed them all the time. Would you like somebody like me at Acme?
I believe you might be asking whether Acme values and appreciates detail-oriented individuals. And yes, at Acme, we definitely appreciate detail-oriented candidates. Next question. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sundar Nadella. I'm an international student, and I was looking through the roles that Acme offers inside the United States. I wanted to understand, I can bring a lot of value to Acme, right?
Yes.
I wanted to understand if Acme would be willing to sponsor me, as well as what is the policy for all the other international students.
That's a very important issue, but I am not sure of our plans for this year. That's a good question for HR, and I would encourage you to follow up with our HR representative today. Yes.
So I recently read an article about Acme, and it really went in depth on the very negative workplace culture that Acme has been encouraging. Can you tell me what you're doing to address that problem?
Okay, Aaron, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Aaron, I cannot agree with that article. It in no way is reflective of my experience at Acme. Next question. Yes.
Hi, I was just wondering, what are Acme's products?
Well, as we discussed in the presentation, our products are widgets and widget-related products. We are the #1 manufacturer of widgets in the world. Next question. Yes.
So does Acme see itself as a strong player in the widget market?
We do. We are the market leader.
So Leslie, how do you think the presentation went?
Well, Derek, this was not my most impressive MBA visit to date. For example, take the first question. The student appeared to be unprepared. They came across as lacking confidence. They rambled about their experience, and they really didn't have a specific question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
It's important in corporate presentations to be concise and to have a relevant question.
So maybe about the next question about sponsorship, which is a pretty big issue today. I would think a lot of students would want to know the answer to this question.
I agree, it is a critical issue today, but a corporate presentation is not the most appropriate venue to ask such a question. First of all, that question applies to only a portion of the audience. Secondly, there are resources including the COC, including websites such as myvisajobs.com, where you can get specific information about Acme and our hiring practices. Thirdly, bringing this up so early on in the discussion can limit your opportunities. And unfortunately, once the student received an answer that he did not particularly like, he reacted very negatively. That leaves a bad impression on the recruiters.
So maybe a more specific question about the company itself regarding cultural issues. Doesn't that show that the students really done their homework to prepare for the presentation?
Well, Derek, I agree. Erin's question definitely showed that she had done research. But as you can imagine, it put me in an awkward position in front of the audience. In general, it's best not to ask negative questions during a corporate presentation or to be aggressive and challenge the presenter or the recruiters. Additionally, the work-life balance issue, it calls into question your commitment to working hard. And I think in this day and age, we're recruiting for six-figure jobs. It is unrealistic to expect MBAs to have a 40-hour work week.
So maybe the other side of this, the student that asked a question about Acme's products, that must have been a safe question.
Well, we had discussed it earlier in the presentation, and if one looks at our website for more than 2 minutes, they're going to clearly see what our products consist of. So it really calls into question whether the student is interested, given that they couldn't take 2 minutes to look at our website or listen attentively during the presentation.
So I'm guessing that last question that was essentially the same as the previous question didn't go over well with you either?
Yeah, being asked the same question twice is a bit of an issue. It shows the student either isn't a good listener, it shows that they really are not interested, and it really calls into question whether they're there just for the free lunch.
Okay. Well, I hope the second half of the presentation goes better for you.
Likewise. Thanks, Derek.
Sure.
Next question. Yes.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. So my name is Duongpon. I'm a first-year Tepper student. You mentioned that Acme has been growing 5% year on year. So what do you think attributed to that success in the widget market?
Thanks for your question. We've been very fortunate to have a consistent rate of growth. We attribute much of that to our ability to continue to increase the speed at which we obtain and respond to customer feedback. Next question. Yes.
Hi, my name's Camden. I'm a first-year student here. So last week I read in Fast Company magazine that Acme was looking into the use of artificial intelligence and three-dimensional printing and the effect that that's going to have on the widget industry. How do you see this changing the core competencies and skills of the people who work at Acme?
That's a great question. As you are aware, manufacturing techniques, the processes that support manufacturing are changing rapidly. We have a program in place to help our staff keep abreast of that. And in particular, we are looking for people that understand the language of technology and are keeping up with the advancements that are taking place. Next question. Yes.
Hi, I'm Adam, a first-year student here at Tepper. I spoke with both of our interns from last year, and they were saying that their summer projects were a great match for their interests. So I was wondering, how does Acme both match these projects with the students' interests and also projects that are valuable for the company?
That's a great question, Adam, and thank you so much for providing that feedback about our summer interns. We obtain input from each summer intern candidate, and that is critical to determining their staffing. About a month before you would join us as a summer intern, you would receive a detailed questionnaire. Once we received your completed questionnaire, we compare that to our business needs and to potential projects to determine the best match.
So Leslie, how did the second half of the presentation go for you?
Derek, the second half restored my faith in the Tepper MBA program.
I'm so glad.
Wonderful. Take the first question. It showed that the student was actively listening and was able to generate a great logical follow-up question. It demonstrates skills that are of interest to employers and also provided information that would be relevant to the audience as a whole.
So what about the second question about artificial intelligence and 3D printing?
That was an impressive question. It showed that the student had gone above and beyond to research the company, to research our manufacturing processes and techniques, and to really look at what technologies may be affecting us. Again, it demonstrates skills that are really relevant to employers, including the curiosity that hopefully would carry over into the person's work.
So then what about the last question about the internship itself?
Provided that hadn't been covered in the corporate presentation, again, it's a very relevant question. It shows the student is clearly interested in the opportunity, and it provides information that's relevant for the entire audience. So again, good question.
Well, Leslie, good luck with your next recruiting event.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Derek, for leading that discussion.
My pleasure.
So next, we're going to jump into a networking session currently in progress. For the purposes of this video, Matt Evans from the COC is going to play a recent Tepper alum with 2 years of experience at Acme Corporation. Let's dive in and see what's happening.
And that's how I became the captain of my rugby team. Let me tell you something about rugby. We had some awesome parties. So what's the social life like at Acme?
It's fine. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about...
Could you hold this for a second? And that's why I think I'd be great at Acme. So, here's my card.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Catch you later.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Hey, Andy. Just want to say I really enjoyed your talk about Acme, and I love your strategy for expanding in international markets. I was wondering if you could talk about your plan to expand into emerging markets.
That's frankly a little bit above my pay grade. I'm really just focused on a small part of the company at this point.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Nathan. Okay. Excuse me. Hey, nice to meet you. Kind of speaking about pay grade, so in terms of compensation, I know Acme's based in New York and it's very expensive there. Is compensation based on region? Do you get more depending on where you are?
I'm not really sure. I'm based in Columbus, Ohio, and I think I'm paid very adequately.
Oh, okay, Columbus, cool. Well, actually, in terms of, looking at candidates, at Tepper, grades don't really matter per se, so when you're evaluating candidates, what are you looking at?
We look at a number of factors, and frankly, grades is one of those factors.
Ah, okay, cool. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Matt. Thanks again, and just in case.
Yeah.
And looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys. I gotta get some food. Thanks.
Hey, well, have a safe trip back.
So Matt, how did that go for you?
I'll be honest, the whole thing was really a bit awkward for me. Let's take that first student, for example, the one who was talking about playing rugby and partying. Really wildly inappropriate things to be talking about on a first meeting. Also, that person was chewing to me while he was speaking with me, which was also inappropriate. Now, I also noticed that person really dominated the conversation, cut off one of his classmates, and thrust his business card at me when he walked away. All very aggressive for the setting, and I really didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, that whole partying thing when first meeting you is way out of bounds. What else did you encounter?
Well, this next person with whom I spoke, he had a question on corporate strategy. Okay, that's the type of question that is far better suited to someone much more senior in the organization than me. Keep in mind, I've only been with the organization for less than 2 years, and I'm more than likely just focused on one specific area of the business. Also, that person really got up in my personal space, and it made me quite a bit uncomfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like you were really put on the spot by that question. You were visibly uncomfortable. What else?
Sure, so the next person with whom I spoke at least acted and behaved professionally, but he asked about two different things that are a bit taboo for this type of a setting. First, the person asked about money, and second, the person asked about grades. Right? The question on grades made me think that this is somebody who is probably a less than diligent student. And the question on money, look, I get that everyone here is in an MBA program and that salary is a key consideration. But when the person proactively brings up that topic, it makes me think that they are much more concerned with finding the job that pays the most amount of money than finding a job that's a great fit.
And then what about those people that just didn't speak?
Yeah, that was a bit strange, wasn't it?
It was.
There was one person who was sort of lurking in and out of the circle without saying anything, no eye contact. And then there was another person who was just quietly standing there staring at me with a blank expression. Even if these people didn't have questions to ask, I would have appreciated it if they had introduced themselves. Alternatively, these two folks, colleagues who were standing in the circle with them, could have introduced them to me. That's the type of thing that I actually would have been very impressed with.
Well, Matt, that sounds like it was pretty rough. I hope the second half goes better for you.
So that's really been my most interesting project at Acme to date.
It's really interesting. And that focus on continuous innovation is exactly what I heard from a second-year student who interned at Acme last summer. Could you tell me a little bit more about your leadership experience? And were you exposed to a lot of leadership experience early on in your career at Acme?
I did. Acme really excels at providing you with challenging assignments from day one. Right off the bat, I get assignments that really stretch my leadership capabilities. But at the same time, they don't totally throw me to the wolves. There's a really active support system there. I really feel like Acme is putting me in a great position to succeed.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I'd like to give a chance to some of my colleagues to ask questions. So this is Paresh, and thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
It's great to meet you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, Matt. I'm Paresh Katwani. Good to meet you. During your presentation, you mentioned that you were a software engineer prior to Acme. That was the exact same background I had prior to Tepper. Could you tell me a little about your journey and how you transitioned over at Acme?
Sure, absolutely. So the first thing that I did upon arriving at Tepper was I took a good inventory of my skill set that I had developed as a software engineer and thought very deeply about how is that skill set going to translate to a business environment. I also sat down with my COC counselor, and together we hashed out a networking plan where we identified companies that would really value my abilities as a software engineer and be able to transfer those skills.
Oh wow, those are great tips. Thank you for sharing those. I want to introduce you to my colleague here, Kevin. He actually just bought a widget from Acme.
Thanks, Fresh. That's right, and one of my favorite things about Acme's widgets is how easy they are to use. I was wondering, as a product manager at Acme, how do you work with engineers and customer-facing teams to make your product so intuitive?
Sure, so for me it all starts with the customer. What is it that I can do for my customers that's going to make them happiest? And then I take that list of requirements and I translate it to the folks on the engineering side, on the technical side of things, in a way that they can understand what it is that I need. You know, being able to speak the language of both customers and engineers is really critical in my role as a PM at Acme.
Excellent, thank you. And as a follow-up to that,
well, Matt, it looks like the second part of that went a lot better for you. You seem much more engaged in the conversation.
Absolutely. You know, the students were actively engaged in the conversation. They had great questions, and overall they were behaving as a really effective community.
I noticed that the first student asked a follow-up question. Is that a best practice?
So absolutely, it really demonstrates solid active listening skills. You know, it's almost more important to ask a good follow-up question than an initial question. That type of question really makes me think that I'm not wasting my breath when I'm talking to this student. It's not like this person comes to these events and has a stock set of questions that they're asking of every alum.
Great. And I also noticed that student exited the circle very gracefully. The next student introduced themselves well and asked questions about your past experience. What did you think about them?
Sure, that was a great question. You know, relationships are really built on similarities, and this person made a real effort to build a bridge between us. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and speaking of relationships, they even introduced one of their colleagues after.
They did, yes. It is very nice to see small gestures like that really help build the Tepper community.
Okay. And you know, once that student had the chance to introduce themselves, what did you think of them?
You know, they asked a great question. It was very specific to me and my role and my function at Acme. It also gave me the opportunity to tell a little bit about my story, which I like doing.
I think everybody likes to talk about themselves. Well, based on your reaction here, it seems like the second half really saved the day for you.
Yeah, you know, it absolutely did. And one other thing that I noticed was even those students who weren't speaking were actively engaged in the conversation. They were smiling, they were nodding, they were making good eye contact. You could tell that they were really paying attention, and that's the type of thing that I like to see.
Well, that's great. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming in. We look forward to having you come back in the future.
Great. Thanks so much, Derek.
As you can see from this video, a recruiter's experience at the Tepper School is largely shaped by the questions asked and behaviors exhibited by our students. Through this video, we hope that you have been able to learn how to present your best professional self at networking situations.
Thanks for watching, and good luck in the recruiting process.